You're listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast, discussing all aspects of precision and long-range rifle shooting. This episode is brought to you by Scoped Out Shooting Optics and Accessories. And now, over to your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to the Precision Shooting Podcast. My name is Rusty. This is episode number 76 and is part 2 of our discussion on varmint shooting and the PRS. We'll get straight into it.
I've got to say, I really like Jared's comp over in Victoria with the moving targets.
Yes.
Because quite often, you know, as a varmint shooter, you do have follow-up shots. Well,
Sure.
not quite often, but, you know, it happens. Your ability to follow up on a moving target could mean the difference between something getting away on a failed, on a miss, or whether you'll plug it. So quite often, I do shoot a lot of stuff on the move.
Yep.
And you know, if I do miss, I'll clean them up on the run.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of technique in that, and not many people practice it. So yeah, it's good to see that those guys are exposing a lot of shooters to those techniques and getting them, you know, refined.
Yeah,
So
the movers were really good.
you did pretty well, didn't you?
That was the one that I did all right on.
I see, varmint shooter.
That's exactly right. I've never shot moving targets on targets before.
Yeah.
I've shot plenty of game on the run and
Yeah.
hit plenty of game on the run,
Yeah.
fortunately enough. But I understand the concept of sort of time of flight and how far the game
So your
travels
aiming
in
marks,
that. So
basically.
that sort of can make it relatively easy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there just seems to be a natural point where you can just aim and you're going to nail it.
Yeah, there's a couple of techniques. Well, there's the standard hold on your aiming mark.
Yep.
Whatever that may be for you. And you hold on it and you release like a normal shot. But quite often you'll waver around that point slightly as you're trying to hold it on that position.
Yep.
Another method that's quite commonly used in like bore drives over in Europe is you actually come in behind the target, you go up through the back leg, through the body, and you release the shot as you pass through.
It's a
the
shotgun
point.
technique.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, very much. You come up through the target,
Yeah,
go
and
past
because you're doing a line, you get that nice smooth flow. Whereas if you're holding your aim mark, you're sort of wavering a little bit. It just probably depends a little bit on the range.
Totally.
But that's a common technique.
So I would. Now I'm trying to think of which way I went. I went about it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out whether or not I stayed on the target and held front of it and kept moving, or whether I waited for it to reach a point and then pull the trigger.
Quite often, a lot of guys they'll sort of do that flow through, but not from very far back.
Yep.
Yeah, they'll like get on centre and then just go to their aiming mark, which that works.
But clays, back when I shot a lot more clays than I do now, it certainly went all the way through it.
Yeah.
Come through it and pull the trigger, depending on how far in front of it you would need to get.
So I find that works for me on the moving targets. It's just flowing a centre line through them. Yeah.
Should be good to get a couple of the guys who do that discipline a bit more often and see what they do for moving side of things.
Yeah. Just see how they tackle it, the guys that do it often. Yeah.
Be worthwhile chatting to them because it's not something we see so much in PRS yet.
Yep.
And the reason we don't see it so commonly in Australia, it's in a few places in the US, but is because of the target system. You need a target system that will handle a few thousand hits, and I know a lot of guys have gone, what about if you do something on a cable and you run the target along? The problem is if that cable gets shot,
the whole stage is gone.
The stage is gone, and you might be able to fix it, right? But for however long it takes you to fix that, the shooting has ceased for everyone, most likely, depending on the range. But if you're up in Mildura, we have a moving target, and let's say it got broken 4 or 5 times over the course of the day, then let's say it took half an hour to fix every time. That's 2.5 hours of downtime, and that's the biggest challenge with a moving target for a PRS match is a target that will that if something goes wrong, it needs to be a real quick fix, or the chances of something going wrong is very minimal. So we've looked at lots of designs and ideas, and certainly keen to see more. I think we've found an option, but it's a lot more of a permanent sort of fixture. So but obviously real practical because foxes move, goats move. These animals do move.
And a lot of them rarely stop.
Yeah.
And foxes are a lot like that. They do stop, but rarely. They're usually on the move. Some of them will go right through your entire left to right without stopping.
Yep.
And you just don't get the shot.
Particularly if they're crossing wind, like if they're trying to get to the other side.
Yeah.
To sort of suss you out.
Well, quite often they'll be on if there's a carcass around or something, they'll be on a beeline for their first feed of the night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and they will not stop, and they just, it's like, stop, and you're like yelling at them, and you're like, oi, oi, oi. And they won't. So normally they stop straight away when you do that. But yeah, that's just, one of the things.
No, good. Very good. So I mentioned before that I had a question about something you were talking about before, and when you mentioned Dan put you on 87 grain VMAXs.
Yep.
Which I have some here for you, by the way,
Yeah,
if you do want some.
Good. I'm getting a bit low.
Here we go. So this is from Tom. He's 6 months into his longer range varminting. Rabbits, foxes, cats. Good to hear.
Good man.
Cats. 850 is where he feels comfortable at the moment and would like to push this to 650. Cool. Well, perhaps some of tonight's
So what was the
conversations.
first? Where is he comfortable?
450.
450.
Did I say 850?
Yeah, it sounded like
I said
850.
850. Yeah.
It's all right.
They just wanted to bring it down a little closer.
Yeah.
450 is where I feel comfortable at the moment and would like to push this to 650. My question is, what do you gentlemen, doesn't know us very well, what do you gentlemen look for in a varminting hunting bullet for this purpose? How do you select a bullet? He does give some details of his rifle. He's got a Seiko 85 varmint.
Okay, so he's got a nice gun.
243 twin twist barrel, running an 80 grain Spitzer, and from Nosler in lap cases. It's a slower load but very accurate and easy to shoot. Gives me good shot placement, quick sight recovery. Fair call. All right, but he's wanting to go further, but perhaps is concerned about his project. Perhaps he wants to go to something that's perhaps more consistent, a little bit more accurate, something like that.
So it doesn't say what he thinks his current limiting factor is?
It doesn't say that in there,
but
obviously one of the things he's asking about is about...
What, sort of how I come to use 87s?
Yeah, how do you come to look for an varmint hunting bullet for this purpose?
Okay.
And how do we select a bullet?
So for me, straight off the bat, I want something, because it's for varminting, I want something that's going to transfer energy. So I want something that's going to actually do some pretty considerable damage on hit for a clean kill. So pretty much that puts... This is just how I think, by the way.
Yep.
You're, quite welcome to think in other ways. But I want something that's going to kill on contact. And usually, ballistic tips fit that bill pretty much perfectly.
Sure.
Now, for me, I know with Dan, he was using 87 VMAX and doing some pretty good things right out to sort of 750, 800 with those, and he wasn't pushing them ballistic, like he was, around the 3100, 3200. I think he got them a lot quicker than that at one point.
He has now, yeah.
Yeah. I think they're like they've got their own like ball of fire as they go through the air. I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
All the bloody water vaporizes through. Yeah. Anyway, So I saw what he was doing. So. The proof is in the range data, if you like, and I basically followed. Now the 87, I like the weight. The initial drops aren't far off at 223 with a 53 grainer, so the drops were very similar to a lighter round. I'm throwing them at 3200. And basically what I did then was test them. So just to see where my nodes were, what the quality of my nodes were like. And I got really good nodes. And I got one up the higher end. And that locked it in for me. So I had the accuracy, I had the speed without going berserk. And, and I had the terminal performance. So, when I hit something now, it's definitely... not getting up or taking a breath after that. But so it does everything I want it to do. I guess it was that simple. I tested it. And if I had tested it and I hadn't got a decent node out of it, or only got a lower node or something like that, I probably would have gone on to something else.
What would you have gone on to then?
Probably similar. I like a little bit of speed,
Yep.
So I probably would have gone around the similar weight. Again, I'm more targeting foxes here.
Sure.
I have shot goats out past 700 metres with it, but that was not the intent. It's mainly for foxes, and it is quite a, that projectile sort out any sort of varmint. But,
truly.
Yeah, so basically it all just worked first time. So,
Okay.
if I would have reset, if that hadn't have tested well, I would have reset, gone a different projectile and started again with the testing, yeah.
But I guess what I'm asking, Greg, is so you've taken that projectile on recommendation from someone who it's worked for, and you've seen it in action.
Yeah.
So if that didn't work for you in terms of your gun, obviously the projectile was sound, but what would you go to? And
what steps I would have done? Yeah. I probably would have started researching the net.
Yeah, okay.
In absence of talking to someone, obviously in person, that's obviously better, or seeing proof on the range. But initially, you go, all right. Let's say I've got a Tika varmint, or let's say I've got a BSA varmint. I would look at who people have had good success around that weight range, and just see what brand that keeps coming up. So sort of run the statistics of what's working for people.
I think that's a point, and that's probably one that I've gone down in many of my bullet selections for hunting guns, where I've spoken to people and ideally seen results.
Yeah, range data always trumps internet in my my head,
But then there were situations where where I didn't have access to that information. What you're talking about. So I mean, my 50 grainers for my 22 to 50, a mate was using the same projectiles in his 223, actually Dutchy, and I was very impressed with what they're doing to the game. And I went, all right, I'm going to give them a go. And again, I went out there and they worked perfectly.
Yeah.
And I went, all right, I will run them from now on.
Yeah.
Despite 50 often being regarded as slightly lighter in a 250, but can't argue with what it's done.
Oh yeah.
And then my 338 was probably one that I researched between the company that put them out and then people's experiences, and then going and shooting them, obviously for accuracy side of things, but probably a little bit about how they, I don't know if it's totally relevant, but
terminal performance.
Yeah, you can. There's some aspects, I guess, you can draw on how they hit steel that can still be useful to know. The pattern they leave on the plate, how the shrapnel you find from below.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take that as word, but it can help make a decision. So the 338 I certainly researched a lot, and then was very happy. I mean, you were on that trip. You were very happy with the performance of it.
Yeah.
So and don't read too much into what it does on steel, but it can give you a guide. I've found. And that certainly has helped. Because if it didn't perform in some ways, then I would ditch it at that point.
Yeah, because I know when I did my 223, when I was building up a load for that, I went out and same thing, saw the terminal performance of a VMAX. It was, it's mind-boggling compared to, when I was young, there wasn't really ballistic tips around, I'm pretty sure. And
still muzzle loaders back then, weren't you?
Yeah, pretty much. And, you just didn't have that sort of damage, that sort of energy transfer. It was, it's incredible. But anyway, 223, I started with 50 grainers.
Yep.
This is a Tika varmint. They were good, but not great.
Mm-hmm.
Then I did 55s because that's what everyone else was using as well.
Yep.
They were good, but not great. And then I thought these 53s have got this very unusually high BC. So that's one little thing to look at. If you're in the 22 cal, the 53 grain VMAX, its BC is sort of up with the 60 grainers.
Yeah, it's a longer projectile. It's a different shape.
Yeah, different shape. So it drags right down. And I ran the 53s with a test, and they grip really tight. So the Tika loved them. So bang, locked it in, and I shot those for that for years, and they work really well. Yeah.
Have you had any? Oh, I guess you just talked about it then, but because I've never really had a I've never made a projectile choice that has ended up not really working as planned. I've been fortunate where I've had the luxury of having like the projectiles I've chosen from a hunting perspective.
Yeah.
I've seen in action.
Yeah.
Prior to using them.
Yeah.
A different story on the target side of things, but obviously different points.
There was probably one I did use AMAX.
Yeah.
308 AMAX.
The 168s.
Yeah, 168s for quite a while. And that shot shot pretty good out of that rifle. But terminal performance was hit and miss.
See, it's funny because that's one of the ones that worked extremely well for me.
Yeah.
On terminal performance. And
well, I won't. Everything I shot died, right? And pretty humanely. But what you'd get is you would get inconsistent expansion, if you like. So sometimes it would keyhole, sometimes it would blow half a basketball out the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't really know what you're going to get. I think it really depended on whether you hit bone and sinew or not.
Mm-hmm.
So those sorts of things, and that's why you pay for a good hunting round, is so that you get that constant, consistent expansion, no matter where your bullet strike goes. If you hit soft, you still want it to be able to expand. So
that's a fair call on the 168s, because that was my experience as well. Now, exactly what you said. Everything that you shot died quickly.
It was still a really good bleed out canal. Yeah, like a solid would do to a deer sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they go straight down and it's game over.
Yeah.
But you just don't get that nice. Well, what you're looking for is so much energy going in that it's just jelly.
And we're talking about varminting there, specifically, as opposed to deer where you don't want that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I've got to be careful not to cross the lines there. Yeah.
But the topic of the show is varminting. So given varminting and then the lead into long range, it's designated. You just want the thing dead, and as quickly as sharply as possible.
As you can. Yeah.
I know with the 250 we certainly looked for not exiting.
Yeah.
Was ideal.
Perfect.
Put it in, it'd go mush.
Yep.
Be completely gone.
Yep.
But there wasn't anything that come out.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what you're looking for, 100% energy transfer. Obviously, that might happen at a certain distance. Close in, it might blast through, of course.
Yep.
But that's you got to make some decisions there as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we've actually answered Tom's question.
What was his question again? How do you choose? Oh, we did.
Yeah, we sort of did. Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you would recommend him? I mean, you're going to recommend him those 85 VMAX, aren't you?
Yeah. Because 87 VMAX.
87 VMAX.
Yeah. Well,
I just read his 85 Seiko. That's where the 85.
Yeah, I've used VMAX for foxing on 223 and 243, and they've worked exceptional.
Yeah.
I've used the 87 grainers on goats, again exceptional, and that was out to just shy of 800.
Yep.
I wouldn't recommend that. That was just happened to be a good placement shot. If you're a bit straight,
it was a comfortable shot though.
Yeah. So I just managed to strike perfectly in the engine room, but definitely a very capable bullet. And it makes those longer shots feel quite a bit easier.
So 650, it's gonna certainly do the job. And I haven't got a 243. I've never run a 6mm, but I've seen that 87 grain VMAX work on so many occasions in so many different rifles. Yours included, Dan's included, but a whole stack more. And then obviously feedback from customers who have used it, and they work well. So
and I'd be awfully surprised if you didn't get a decent node in his Seiko.
I have had a couple of guys who it's just not worked for it just hasn't shot well.
Yeah.
So be it. Yeah.
So be it. You just got to do the testing, don't you?
Gun hates it. Away we go.
Move on.
Yep. Yeah, move on, and they've often gone across to like a nozzle ballistic tip.
Yeah.
Like
Again, I've
90,
heard good things.
80, 90, 95. But somewhere in that realm.
Yep.
So that's probably the ones we'd look at. No doubt there's plenty around, but that's generally where I'd start. If I was buying a 6mm tomorrow for that purpose, 87 grain VMAX is where I'd go. And seeing Bronte smash through stages with it, and there's plenty of other guys who use it for competition.
What did he get? Equal second?
Equal first.
He got first.
Equal first in that
Equal
first
on the first comp. Yeah, he got it on 87 grain VMAX.
That's it.
243.
Yeah,
So
showed Butters up.
Yeah. That was 300 Win Mag?
Yeah, against the 300 Win Mag. So
you had to get that Butters stab in there, didn't you?
Shout out to Butters. We love you, mate. Yep. You've gone quiet, Greg.
That's because I'm drinking.
That's a good reason. Butters driven you to drink because he constantly. Good.
What do we got left?
Don't know. Not much drink left. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other aspect of to mention about varminting and long range and PRS and all this sort of gear is equipment, because I'm gonna make a really broad sweeping statement, and then we can analyse whether it's true or not. But I reckon that a lot of stuff makes its way across from varminting to PRS, right, and does an okay enough job. But I think in many instances you could use a full PRS.
PRS. Is that a new comp?
It is.
Yeah, right.
Look out for it, 2019.
Put my name down for that one.
Yeah, no, PRS is old school. PREG is the new.
PR Greg.
This is when Greg buys out PRS nationally or internationally, and it becomes PR Greg. I can't wait. It's gonna be a great comp. It's just gonna be like, come first, you win $100,000. Whatever Greg's got in his wallet, basically.
That check might bounce.
On credit, mate. It would take Visa.
Back on top.
How do we get coming across the guns you use for varminting? Can often work reasonably well coming across to PRS. But I think that they're going from PRS back, those guns work sensationally well for varminting.
I'll just jump in there.
Yeah, go.
I was watching a video you'd just released through Impact Dynamics recently.
Right.
Showing that, was it the pillow bag thing?
Oh, you watched that?
Where Dan's having a little snooze. Yeah.
I didn't have to set that up. Dan was just sitting there sleeping.
Yeah, and I haven't done a lot of PRS style shooting myself, personally, and I'm looking at that bag going, would that help me with my varmint shooting? And I started to think about what you're talking about now is what can I bring across the other way that would help me? And I have brought one thing across.
Oh, look out.
I've obviously gone to a chassis recently.
Yes,
I've got that little sap bag.
Yep.
What's the name of this thing?
The sap bag.
Oh, is it just
sap bag? A lightweight one or a run and gun bag?
And I usually just have
short action precision.
Yeah, and just have that in my stock hanging off
with a flush cup or something like that.
Well, yeah, not on this one, but I'm trying to sort that out.
Sure.
But yeah, and then that way you've got that on the run. And so I'm starting to get a few things across, but yeah, I'm sure there's. I'll let you talk.
Well, going the other way. No, we're definitely going to come to that, because going the other way, I think that a lot of us started PRSing, if that's a word, doing this sort of practice for varminting, using whatever it is that we had. And so you'd end up with a lot of guys run mags for varminting, because if you need to take a few shots and then change mag, because you got a whole stack of rabbits, or you culling roos, or you're shooting a stack of goats. I don't know if goats count as varminting, but anyway, with the type of hunting we're doing, maybe a broader term. And so the guns sort of often were set up reasonably well, and so we'd start using that for this type of shooting steel and running stages and ideas and concepts, and then you sort of get a bit more specific. So mags were real common, although I often did run a floor plate more than I ran a mag for spotlighting myself. Yeah. And I know I shot with Dan, for example, would run a mag more commonly. Personal preference. I know your mags.
Yeah, I'm both at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have
a magged floor plate.
No, not on the same rifle, Sam.
Just checking.
But yeah, there's one advantage. If you're doing a lot of shooting out of your cabin of your car, a mag can be a little bit of a pain in the butt unless you've got one of those. What are those strong arm rests? You know, the one that's sort of outside of the car.
Oh yeah, big iron one.
Big iron
That's
rest
the one,
where you can actually lean out of the car a bit.
And it depends on your mag as well.
Yeah,
for sure.
But absolutely depends on your mag. But yeah, so they both have a little bit of a advantage, and that flat one's quite good if going off the door frame. But yeah, I do enjoy a mag as well. You know,
I'm glad you enjoy a mag.
Yeah.
We're still talking about shooting, are we?
Oh, are we? Yeah.
Right, good.
Yeah,
Just checking.
No.
And other things like binos. You know, the binos, often 10 power is a real common binos to be running. Yeah, not spotlighting per se, but out doing the same thing during the day.
Well, funny you say that.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's hilarious. No, I was out with Simo, and what he was doing was, when I was finding something under spotlight, like right out at distance, he was actually grabbing my binos off the dash and confirming the target through the binos.
Yeah,
and we actually found
nice.
it really efficient.
Okay.
You know, rather than because you're facing it.
Yeah.
He just went straight through the windscreen. So it actually, identification of target was quick.
Was bang on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then we knew whether to swing the car or whatever. But
cool.
Yeah, binos work.
Good point. Good point. Okay, I take back everything. Well, not everything I said, just the bits about the binos being during the day. But the binos sort of, you know, that comes across as well. And there's a stack of things. I mean, I don't know if you've ever, this is perhaps getting in, but probably the first things I saw that looked anywhere near like a game changer bag were based around actually the Max box.
Oh yeah, that was the I've got one.
And that sort of sat.
That was the beginnings.
It was the second one. It was the second Max box. I don't remember what it was called, but it would sit over the car.
Yeah, I've got one of those
door.
ones. Yeah.
And the Door Pro, I reckon it was called.
Yeah.
And I assume they're still around. And you'd have this sort of thing that would sit either side and give you really good balance. And and I remember sort of thinking about that and going, oh yeah. And then I saw the Game Changer bag come out and go, I mean, very different, but achieved a similar purpose. And so, and no doubt, plenty of guys have shot with Game Changers off the side of utes now, or over the top, or something along those lines. And you know what you're talking about is bringing stuff that's been developed in the PRS world back over to the spotlighting world to make
your effective range out of your window a bit further.
For some reason, back when it was spotlighting only, I would never thought to put attach a rear bag to the back of the gun. I just
it's only been fairly recent for me. Yeah.
And then you go into the PRS world and you go, oh, you better attach your bag, because when you run to the next thing, you need it with you. You go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that's good. Hang on a sec. Oh, I should have done that 10 years ago.
Yeah. Hey, this is a really good idea.
So you don't lose it off the back of the ute or whatever. You have to have a hand on it. So just things like that, I've seen that correlation back and forth. And you talked about the pump pillow.
Yeah. I'm not sure how that'll fit, but it just dawned on me when I watched that video, you know, like what other elements can come across that would really work, that wouldn't be, you know, you've got to get in and out of cars and all that sort of stuff, that would just work for those transitions.
Have you seen, do you run a two round holder on the side of your gun?
No, I don't, but I think that's a great idea.
I've certainly got them on my hunting rigs, even walk around hunting rigs. Yeah, and again, they've been sort of a PRS sort of adaptation.
I think it's a good idea. I don't know how often I would use it, because normally a fox engagement, you'd be lucky to go over 4 rounds.
Sure.
You know, but there are times, there are exceptions to every rule, as we know.
Absolutely.
And occasionally you will, but I still think it's a great idea that should come across,
And so I think, I mean, so the last time I went out spotlighting, I used my 260, my PRS type gun. And I tell you what, it was in no way hindrance. No. You know, I just wound that scope right back. Still got illumination on the scope. Turn that on.
Yep.
And
away you go.
Well, I mean, you've shot with Dan. If you shoot with Dan, spotlighting, you better be bloody quick. Otherwise, you're not going to be shooting anything all night.
Yeah, I did. We did go into a rabbit rich environment, and we had a game out the left side of the car that, basically who shoots it first.
Yeah.
And I didn't get a single rabbit. He's just too quick. Just as I was squeezing it, it would explode in my view. So, it was just too quick for me.
And so I remember a trip up in New South Wales where we shot about 60 foxes, and it was the biggest trip I've ever done on foxes. And we were both running 22 to 50s. And I tell you what, that night I got a lot quicker on running the gun because, again, if we'd both be standing at the back of the gun, the back of the ute, spotlight would be up sort of over the bonnet. And then as soon as he saw something, he'd sort of drop back a little bit. We'd both run up to the roof of the car and drop the guns down. And we were basically first on. I remember losing the first few to him. I went, right, I've got to be on this. Yeah. So I made a few little tricks and I started to keep up with him. Yeah. And we just went bang, bang, just shot for shot for the night. It was really good. Until I ran out of ammo, actually.
Gee, that's a rare and quite a great thing to happen, really.
He lent me some of his.
You've had one hell of a night.
Or I may have forgotten some ammo.
Oops.
Anyway, but it was good. But ever since then, and having shot with Dan, several times since, you run quick. You run real quick. And so I remember going out on this particular time with my 260, and just because that gun is so well set up for that type of shooting, and it's really quick to get in place. I remember those who know Aaron, he was driving, and another mate of his was sort of in the front seat, and they'd pull up on something, go, there it is, and bang, away we go. Racing like I was shooting Dan. Shooting with Dan. Sorry, Dan.
Jeez.
Shooting with Dan.
A few jokes there.
And I got through about sort of 7 or 8 foxes and kind of went, oh, hang on, that other bloke's got a gun with him. I've jumped out the car and gone, mate, I'm really sorry. I've been running an autopilot. We just shoot as quick as possible. Otherwise you got no chance of the night. And usually it's 50-50 anyway. Yeah. And
so you kill hog.
Yeah. So I apologise for that.
Yep.
And then kept it up for the rest of the night because it was so ingrained. I think we knocked off 10 foxes and a cat.
Oh, that's decent. That's a decent night. Damn straight.
But poor Jai, don't even know if he got a shot off.
Has he spoken to you since?
Yeah, no, I've got some beer to buy, I think. Yeah. No, fair point. No, but you can get so ingrained in that sort of stuff. And I guess that comes from, training for PRS stuff and training for that type of shooting and being quick to engage, quick to make
drills,
decisions.
And it's like any drill. You do it enough, it just happens automatically, and that's the whole idea of a drill. And especially at 2 a.m. when you're tired, it should just happen anyway. And I think that happens a lot. You just bang, bang, bang.
And both types of drills are designed to put holes in things.
Yeah, funny that.
Yeah.
Black and Decker. Clown.
Oh, good. I did that one for Johnson. Right, good. I shouldn't. I thought 2 drinks, not 4. That's usually the problem. All right, so bad jokes aside, speaking of drills, you actually bring up a really good point. And I don't know how many guys practice their spotlighting, but it's worthwhile doing. Like, if you want to get better at your spotlighting and whether you're interested in PRS stuff or not, I've seen guys significantly improve their rate of engagement and rate of hitting stuff by practicing when they're on the range, not the range, but in terms of just working on sighting in or working on whatever it is, by rather than just sort of setting up a mat or setting up a bench, they actually just shoot from the back of the ute or shoot from the driver's seat or passenger seat.
Their typical spotlighting positions.
What they're actually going to find themselves engaging in. And I've seen guys who can't shoot out of one side of the ute go, right, well, I'm going to get better at that.
Yeah, work on it. Yeah.
So they park the car up, they put a target out, and then they work on working out how to do that. Yep. And we see a lot. Actually, great story about Bronte we mentioned before. Yeah. Yep. In that first comp we ever did, there was a stage where you had to shoot from the right shoulder and the left shoulder, right shoulder, left shoulder. And so many people struggled with it because they'd never done it before. They never thought about it.
Yeah.
And Bronte smashed it. He did really well on that stage. And he said that one of the reasons he did that is because he's so used to shooting out of either side of the ute that he learnt to shoot, taught himself to shoot on his off shoulder, the one that's not common.
Yeah.
And that's why he did so well, because he'd shot so many times hunting and probably practiced that side for that reason, not because of some stupid match director's going to put it in a comp. And now it's commonplace in the comp. And again, I think that would make you... Well, I can attest to that. Those things appearing in comps and being something we're conscious of and practicing. I've been in positions where it's far quicker to get in a position off my off shoulder on a fox than it was on my on shoulder, and just went, I can do it. Pull it up, where we go, bang, fox is dead. All right, move on. And it's not been this is really weird and uncomfortable and I can't do it very well. It's been drilled into me.
Straight in. Lock it in. Yep. And
so if guys are not interested in PRS, or if you are, definitely practice it. But there's rather than shooting off a bench, shoot out the ute, shoot over the ute, shoot the position, over the bonnet, all that sort of gear, because you will encounter that.
Yeah, and I think if you get a raw PRS shooter that's been doing it a while and pretty competent, they've got to be getting good at looking at the height of, like looking at their challenge, which is to set up a position. Let's say it's the bonnet, let's say it's on the roadside, let's say it's on a fence post, and to be able to assess that on the best position to take to get the most stability.
Sure.
And that's got to come out of PRS, surely. Like in terms of going, well, how we talk about the ladder practice, where you go in each run of the ladder and do that with 11-second.
Oh, yeah, the 11-second drill.
The 11-second drill. That's got to help.
Whatever position you're going to choose, yeah.
Obviously the bonnet's repeatable, that's quite easy.
Yep.
The out the doors repeatable, that's quite easy. But when it's a fence post or, you get it caught in these different situations, I think a PRS person would quite well adjust to the varminting side.
And a well-experienced varminter will
go the other way.
Well, yeah. And even to the point you say bonnet's repeatable, but you in a varminting situation and in PRS, you don't. It's
never quite as comfortable as you want it to be.
Between that,
it's not a perfect 90 degrees to the car.
No, and the angle as well. Yeah. So shooting slightly downhill, uphill, that sort of gear. Being able to. Again, when you're shooting a fox, you're under pressure. So as you're getting out of the car, if you're conscious of it, if you're aware of it, you're setting your bipod up, going, I reckon it's going to be this. You're changing your bipod accordingly. So when you put that gun down on the bonnet, it's hopefully pointing the right direction. And that translates, you know what I'm going with, one way or the other. So if you can do that really well varminting, that'll help immensely with PRS. Because I've seen so many guys get down behind their bipod and go, oh, hang on, I've got to bring it up or drop it down. Yeah. And then vice versa. If you're aware that that's something that you have to do when you're varminting, you'll be conscious of it as well.
And I know, too, time pressure. There's nearly always, almost without exception, it's pretty rare to not have a time pressure scenario shooting foxes.
Foxes, definitely.
It's like, they're either sweeping from one direction to the other. They're either on their way in or on their way, they'll only come into a certain point and then they're on their way out,
And that's, it's saying what we were saying before where patience is a virtue, and that's right. It's not contradicting what we're saying now in terms of when you have the opportunity to make that shot, you've only got a short time.
There's some scenarios where you're running out of time. You've got a particular bracket of time, like for when they're going, say, from one direction to the other, and you're running out of bonnet, or you're running out of sight line, or they're about to hit your downwind,
or tree, they're about to hit the scrub.
Yeah, so
common.
You've got. About 3 or 4 seconds to make this shot.
And you want to make it a sensible shot.
Yep.
So, it's good. It's real interesting to see that. And so I guess one thing to clarify for some of our listeners, because we do have a lot of overseas listeners, is, and perhaps we should have done this at the top of the show, but anyway, we spotlight in Australia, and it's all legal, and it's not, in terms of permission, all that sort of gear. But we can run in a spotlight to shoot these game, and I know plenty of parts of the world you're not allowed to shoot on a spotlight, and some may suggest, well, that doesn't really, it's not really sporting we're not there to be super supporting in this aspect. We're literally there to do a job. Is the particular animals we're talking about in terms of rabbits, foxes, and cats are a big pest, big problem we have here, and we need to take out as many of them as we can. And so that's where under spotlight, as using all these things like drones and bits and pieces, anything we can do to make this job easier and quicker and more efficient, the better off we are. And that's why being good at it and being able to sort of pull these these skills across from PRS is really useful.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I've certainly seen guys who shoot varmints very well go give some steel shooters who would do this fairly often a run for their money. One thing I do want to mention is that we have some STS targets to give away, thanks to STS for sponsoring shows as well. And these are going to go out, but if you want the higher chance of winning, our Patreon supporters are going to have a better chance of winning these things, actually. And that's because they've obviously sort of delved into their pocket to try and help this show keep on running and pay its bills. So if you are liking what we're doing and it's enjoyable and all that sort of gear, and you can spare $1 a month or $2 a month or whatever it may be, jump on Patreon. There's links around and you can find us and subscribe. In that regard, you get some extra bits and pieces and a little bit added to the shows, as well as a higher chance in the comps. We'll explain how that's all going to work in a future episode, but we'll give you some time to jump on board and support us. That would be amazing if you could. And there's some other features you can read about it on there. That would be good. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for listening, Greg. Thanks for coming in and chatting varmint shooting and all that sort of stuff.
No worries.
I'm sure it's a big ask for you for the varmint side of it.
It's tough job, but come through in the end.
Someone's got to do it. I like your style. Yeah, brilliant. Very good, guys. Thanks for tuning in. It's great to meet a stack of you on the East Coast, and no doubt we will catch up with you guys somewhere soon. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast. To continue the discussion, check out our Facebook page. And for more information, head to our website, www.precisionshootingpodcast.com.au. This episode was brought to you by Scoped Out Shooting Optics and Accessories.